Today I'm going to be addressing full moons and intuitives. We are upon the April pink moon of 2024, and I would like to discuss my relationship with the full moon cycles. I started paying attention to full moons back about 10 years ago when I was working with a naturopath and I was having a lot of problems, and he mentioned that a lot of his clients were having the same kind of problems, and it was due to the full moon. Now, I always knew that emergency departments and police stations and police officers were more active during the full moons, but I didn't really get it. I mean, I looked at the full moon in the sky, I thought it was beautiful, and then away I went with the rest of my life. But now, after 10 years of personal growth, spiritual, inner child work, I understand it much more deeply. Part of the reason that I understand it on this deep level is because I have made myself sensitive to the energies from various activities and through all of my inner child work. First and foremost, just starting to make the connection between the moon and having issues was a big one. I also started to make the connection between my menstrual cycle and the full moon and things that were bothering me. So that was another awakening event that I connected the dots together to understand how it was affecting me on deep levels. Now, one thing that a lot of intuitives don't seem to mention, well, in my opinion, enough, which is why I'm mentioning it, is that every single moon is an opportunity to do manifesting. And we hear a lot of public speakers and influencers talking about manifesting, but I don't often hear about the specifics of manifesting in the way that would have helped me, which is why I'm making my video centered around the topics and ideas that I did not understand. So every one of these moons is a manifesting moon, and what you do during the moon is reflected in your life in some way, whether it is in the next week, the next months, or even years and years later. This particular moon, my interpretation of it, it is very progressive. It is really bringing a lot of energy to us to help us awaken for our spiritual journeys, to help us awaken to see some of the patterns in our lives that we are ignoring, perhaps some boundaries that we are not addressing in our own life that Spirit says we should have better boundaries with somebody or something or a job or a situation. Perhaps there is something in our lives that we could have more fulfillment or abundance from that we are not taking advantage of. A lot of it is changing the vibration. I mean, we are in a huge stage of spiritual growth right now on our planet because we've had a major timeline shift and a splitting of the timelines. So now there are two distinct groups on Earth right now, the lower timeline and the upper timeline. And I am on the upper timeline. I am doing these videos to help people understand the upper timeline and to encourage more people to jump onto the upper timeline because it is of benefit to everyone on it. Some of the things that I do during the full moon, every single full moon, one of them is I do moon water. I put the water in a jar out in the moonlight, and I use that in my aromatherapy diffusions in my house. I make my own body sprays out of aromatherapy oils. I put it in there. You can use it for a lot of different things. A lot of intuitives use it in many different ways, but that's just the one way that I do it. I have heightened emotions around the full moon. So this morning I felt a lot of strong energy pushing me into things like making this video and doing some of the other details and activities that I'm going to describe to you in this video. I did plant some plants in my garden because it's springtime. I checked on some of my seedlings to make sure they're not getting too much sun because I live in a sunny area. I will be working on some type of manifesting ritual later today or tomorrow because the moon is tomorrow. So I will use my intuitive senses to decide exactly how I will set up that manifesting ritual. Another thing that I've done is I have reached out to someone who is not as awake as she could be and sent her some information about a free webinar that would help her. I've also reached out to somebody who is a vibrational match to me through my progressive habits and ideas. So I'm looking for more people near me who are a vibrational match. Because I am on the upper timeline and I'm in an area where most of the people around me are not on this timeline, I am a trigger. So my strong energy triggers people and situations around me all the time. I see it. It is one of the things that makes my path a bit lonely is I can see when I'm triggering people, and it's not always a trigger with an anger. It's a trigger with a divine message for change in a positive direction. A lot of people perceive that trigger as something negative because it's a trigger, it invokes a deep feeling that invites people to make a positive change, but positive change doesn't always happen. And that trigger is often interpreted as rude, offensive, not politically correct, not polite. But I have been placed in this situation to be the trigger for positive change for the higher timeline. So that's why it happens around me. It still frustrates me. It still causes a trigger inside of me that I have to navigate and look at and sort of maintain my own balance when I understand what exactly happened and why it's happening. It's still a process for me at this point. Something else that I am very aware of during this moon is to give gratitude for a recent opportunity that has come into my family. It's been long awaited. It's a first for one of my sons, and so that manifested this month. And I'm incredibly thankful and full of gratitude for this opportunity because it sets my son on a next path for him. And it's taking a lot of burden off of me of waiting for him to be ready, waiting for him to take the next step, and being the mother that knows that this thing needs to happen. And somehow I have to place the limits in our life to make it happen. It happened. I'm so thankful. He's excited and moving in the direction for his own life growth, and it's such a relief to me. I'm also still processing all of the eclipse energies. I have not been able to leave the house in a couple of days. I've been in a lot of internal pain and struggle. I've been releasing a lot of negativity that I've held on to for a very long time due to childhood trauma and situations and challenges in my life. It's really hard. I think a lot of intuitives online or your yoga class just says release negativity. It's not that easy when it's deep negativity. You have to process all of those emotions. You have to look at it. You have to mentally go back and see why the event happened, what the negativity was held in your body for, what are the reasons that you want to release it, how is it going to affect your ego. Often there's emotional releases, crying, frustration. However a person deals with their emotions, everybody's are different. I've used crystals this morning. I was in pain. I've taken herbal remedies, breathing exercises. I've done grounding in the sunshine. So I've put a lot of work into it. I know that the feelings will pass and release as they are needed, but there is still work to be done. I didn't even realize all of the work that did need to happen until I went to EMDR last year. I had to spend about 10 sessions with a therapist in EMDR, and I honestly, usually I like to know exactly how everything worked. EMDR, I don't know. All I know is that it does work. It's set up a neural pathway for me, so now I don't have to continue going to the EMDR. The 10 sessions were enough, and now I'll have that pathway set up forever. So when I am releasing these emotions, I do remember the time and investment that I spent with that EMDR, and I know it is still working for me. Another thing that is kind of funny with the full moons, my kids now, after all of these years and seeing me suffer, if we're close to a full moon, they get that look and that attitude like, don't mess with me. It's a full moon. You don't want to come near me today, just so you know. I think that it is something that's actually very respectful of the people that live with me. I have masked so many of my emotions for many, many years due to trying to fit in with society, trying to be socially acceptable, keeping a job, not acting like a woman really wants to act in a patriarchal culture, all these sorts of things. But I think it's actually quite respectful to give my children a little bit of heads up, like, hey, I'm feeling extra things. I'm dealing with things that you don't maybe understand or know about. Probably a good day to stay away from me so we can continue our harmonious and humorous relationship. Um, so that's what I'll be doing for the moon today. I encourage everybody to start paying attention to the moon and see how it affects your life, even though you may not think it affects your life. It really does. And it affects all the people around you, especially the sensitive people, and especially women. We are more attuned to the moon. So if there's anything that's happens to you or anything out of the ordinary within 24 hours before and after the moon, it's a good opportunity for you to think, was that the full moon driving that behavior? And what was that person thinking about or feeling, or what did that bring up for the other person? If you're not feeling it inside of you, someone around you is feeling it. The most important thing when beginning a spiritual journey is to start looking at the clues in your life that are showing you, oh, this is a result of the energy that's come in with the moon. So thank you for watching, and I hope you've received some bit of information that you can use in your life to further yourself on your spiritual journey. Thanks.